Orb presents Showdown at Cremation Creek Part 2.
This is Gary Butterfield.
This is Cole Ross.
And this is the end of the second end of the early end.
More like awfully wedded.
There we go.
Because they're villains. Yeah.
Or because they love owls.
Ooh. Those things that puncture metal?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Who doesn't? Or, a Hawaiian punch can if you're in a pinch.
Okay.
You gotta punch open a Hawaiian punch can.
You keep open a Hawaiian punch.
Yeah.
You keep an owl around for a Hawaiian punch.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm thinking about getting back into canned juice. The canned juice of my youth.
Yeah, just a canned pineapple juice. Don't talk about why, but just be chugging that stuff and smiling and look at people.
Like a metal flavored soda you could have. It's like a really unique taste. Or like drinking the bottom out of a can of fruit.
Whoa.
As
heavy syrup.
Syrup. Yeah, heavy syrup and heavy lead all in the same swig. This is the end of season 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, where the big shakeups, big attempts. We got Phantom Limb coming at the king.
Yeah, and he does miss.
He does.
In terms of the show, we have this episode. Then we're going to do a wrap up. Episode. We do feedback on the show. Yeah,
we do.
People can write in their thoughts.
I put out the call for the responses last time. Honestly, it's probably too late by the time people hear this.
Yeah, that's true. Just because we're getting a headlog.
Yes. A
headlog. We might put out the call on Twitter or something. Possibly, we'll figure something out. Maybe. But we'll be doing a wrap-up episode where we talk about our thoughts on the season and talk about the DVD special features.
Mm-hmm. Get that tour of the Astro Base.
Yeah, I love that. The hydration station. And then before we start season 3, I don't know who's going to guest on season 3.
Yeah.
Started the show with guests lined up for first couple seasons. And
then
I don't know that many Venture Brothers friends.
Yeah.
Gwen will be back.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. That's basically what I got.
Okay.
Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's move right along. This one, like the previous episode, written by Jackson Public and Doc Hammer, originally aired on October 15th of 2006. I was still an adult at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Still, you hadn't Benjamin buttoned yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is, we talked about the premise, listen to the last episode if you haven't. This episode was very difficult for them. The first episode got struck by lightning on the way. This episode was a nightmare for the production team because there are so many crowd shots and there's an entire action scene that takes place in a canyon, which is, some MCU shit. It is pretty ambitious in terms of action.
Yes. Yeah. And they had to make up stuff and hold cloth and revisions and do just late night thumbnailing and stuff. It's hard. Animation takes a long time, and especially if you end up in a time crunch, it sucks to be there. Yeah, so I could feel the panic when I read them talking about just 2 whole weeks of trying to rescue this thing.
Yeah. There was a completely different ending at one point, where the fate of Phantom Limb was more decisive. It was cut and changed for time, but that ended up being good because we get the Revenge Society. Stuff like that shows up.
Yeah.
And this ends with a pretty infamous cliffhanger, the kind of shit that they stopped doing for the show.
Yeah.
Where they leave Doctor Girlfriend and the Monarch. Unlike later seasons, the big status quo changes kind of show up are not as hinted at. The hints in this episode about those are a little bit minor, and then the new status quo stuff is really set up in the next episode, in the premiere. As opposed to season 1, the boys died. Season 2, a lot of the boys died, or season 3 rather. They have these kind of big sea changes. Here, it ends with a literal cliffhanger
Yeah.
kind of moment, heavily implying that Dr. Girlfriend is pregante.
Yeah. Also not the word.
She is indeed not.
Right. The way that they talk about it, like they didn't know what it was going to be, what they said at the end. They knew the conclusion that people would draw, but like by the time they recorded the commentary and, you know, by the time they were working on the beginning of season 3, they knew for sure that it wasn't going to be, you know, now all of a sudden we've got a little pupa running around, right?
Yeah. It'd be, I don't want to see Dr. Girlfriend give birth.
No.
So it ends up being they feel really bad about that. It's kind of like a narrative cheat to just like cast that line into the water without having an end to that parentheses, you know?
Yeah.
And then the payoff being very underwhelming in terms of the dramaturgical dodge they do.
Yes.
You know, so they're disappointed, and I also think it's pretty lame.
Yeah.
It's funny watching this one because I'm so used to watching this episode with the last one as all one part.
Yeah.
I like part 2 a lot less than I like part 1 of this.
Same.
I like this, but I just you know, there's lots of great moments, but part 1 feels very golden to me. This ditches that kind of hangout vibe for, you know, action, and like, to me, when I enjoy action in the Venture Brothers, it's Brock Sampson being over the top.
Yeah.
It's if the people fighting aren't Brock Sampson, I tend not to care that much.
Yeah.
There's not a lot to latch onto.
There's a lot of movement in this episode, but like the interesting stuff is just kind of like it's already happened and it's resolving of its own momentum, kinda.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. It ends up being very weird as a standalone episode. It's also the last episode that was aired in standard definition. It's also the last episode of the podcast that's going to air in standard definition. So look out for 4K orb.
Look out for those uncompressed flax.
Yeah, we're gonna send out some flax, some orbises.
Yeah,
orb finally on Orbis.
You can put this on your Pono, your Neil Young's Pono.
Let's and the commentary is also not very useful during it, but we do get Doc Hammer championing Dean.
Yes.
And just loving Dean and letting in, like he said, the Suicide Girls love Dean and love Mike Sinter Nicholas.
Yes. They met some Suicide Girls at a convention, and those tattooed pierced ladies are like, we love Dean. So
man, what an artifact of the mid 2000s that they're just Suicide Girls roving about.
Yep. Oh man.
Yeah. So let's get into it.
We open up with our cold open is just a gag that's a fast forwarded previously on, where he just does a couple of frames of every scene from the previous episode, and it ends with with Phantom Limb giving his directive, call off the wedding or everybody in the cocoon dies, but he has no intention of letting anybody live.
Yeah. The Monarch is trying to calm down the crowd, so he's like, am I married yet? And Iggy Pop, who is one of Bowie's henchmen in this, assures him that they have it covered.
Yes.
We have you covered, Bowie. Brock sends Hank to go get Dean, try not to get killed.
Yeah.
And not torturing Monstroso with Snapple facts.
Getting everything set up. And we have the Phantom Limb and the Monarch taunting each other. Saying like, oh gosh, this is really sad. You coming back? Can't you take no for an answer? And Dr. Girlfriend steps up with a little bit more authority, saying, just go home. And he fires back with some classical sexism, saying, yes, this is your irrationality. It's the handicap of your sex, or something like that. Because Phantom Limb is a real dick. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't a great time for the Monarch treating Dr. Girlfriend with tons of agency either, but Phantom Limb is worse.
Yeah.
Phantom Limb plays his trump card here, which he orders Klaus and Iggy to betray Bowie. Here, Klaus Nomi kind of inflates like Banshee and screams, and Iggy Pop can create magical orbs like Boom Boom from the X-Men.
Wait, Boom Boom? What era is Boom Boom from?
Boom Boom, aka Boomer, aka Meltdown, Tabitha
Okay.
I can't remember her last name. I was doing good for a minute. She was a New Mutant.
Okay.
Remember X-Force?
Yeah, kind of. I saw those covers. Yeah.
Yeah, she was in Next Wave for some reason, which is a funny comic.
Does Iggy Pop have songs about orbs?
No, I think it's just the fact that his last name is Pop.
Okay.
So it's just so they can have
Maybe.
him blow it up at the end.
Yeah, gotcha. But yeah, Iggy Pop is he's at the end of his rope. Says 30 years taking orders from you, man. 30 years of playing the idiot. Now you're gonna be my dog. And pretty much all of the battle banter is just references to or lyrics from songs that are related to these artists.
Yes. So the idiot is a very famous and good Iggy Pop album, and then I Want to Be Your Dog, famous Stooges song.
Yeah.
Close screams at Bowie here, but when he turns into a pack of cigarettes, it's because Bowie catches Iggy's orb, and then Iggy goes pop, and that's what turns Bowie. Kind of blows him away. I think the implication is supposed to be that they think he's dead and he dropped his cigarettes.
Yes.
We don't find out until later they turned him into a pack of, he's shape-shifting.
He disguised himself. Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, Iggy takes the smokes.
Free smokes.
Yeah.
The Monarch says, I'll get the one dressed up as Taco. You take Spicoli.
Yeah. Good little Fast Times reference. Yeah.
Yep.
Klaus attacks Monarch and they have a little slap fight. It's real pathetic. Not a lot of momentum to it.
What is this armor made of plastic? Because it was.
Yeah.
If he thinks it's up to the bow tie, which spins. It's like a little propeller thing. So dumb.
Did Klaus Nomi have a spinning bow tie? Was that part of his thing?
It did not spin.
Okay.
But this outfit he's wearing is the Klaus Nomi outfit.
Yeah, a spinning bow tie would be like a Dr. Demento kind of thing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, or Dr. Detroit kind of thing. I love Brock and Iggy Pop. It's a surprisingly good matchup.
Yep. Iggy's swinging a piano leg around.
Yeah, just very feral and stuff. But the henchmen end up getting the upper hand and leave with Doctor Girlfriend.
Right.
Then we enter in the absolutely bizarre B plot before the pretty weird C plot. Yeah, it's funny, and it accomplishes the goal of getting Pete and Billy into the finale of a sort. He's Dean is trapped. The engine room only goes one way. And everything's chaotic, so he can't get anybody on the radio. Brock and Hank and his dad, Henry Allen Venture. I think this might be the first appearance of Hank's middle name. And he sits down. He's depressed, but he sees a pudding tab ring. Or something like that. Speaking of canned fruit. And he pretends that it is a magical ring. And this is all just him. This is what he does when he's really stressed out.
Yeah.
Is going to pretend land.
I thought the implication was that he was, this was engine fumes or something like this, causing him to hallucinate. But by the end of the episode, it's very clear. Like Brock even says, oh yeah, he gets like this all the time. Don't worry.
There were a bunch of conspiracy theories that this was not a hallucination because when one of the crowd scenes, one of the characters from this shows up in it just because it was an animation goof.
Oh yeah.
So they were just like, oh, maybe it's real. Like there was. I remember when this episode came out, message boards being intolerable. So people who think that the internet just got bad, recently, it is not true.
No, it's kind of always been our downfall. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, they should probably be worried that he dissociates like this.
Yeah. It's just it's very sad.
Yeah.
When he finds this ring, he is kind of rescued, found by his hero, Giant Boy Detective, who is played by Billy Quizboy.
Yes.
In this,
coming in saying, "Dean, you are the chosen one."
Yeah. And, he's very disappointed by how, because using Billy Quizboy, who is a little person, as Giant Boy Detective just makes him 8 feet tall.
In the book,
they
call him Large Boy Detective.
Yeah.
In the books, he's taller than a lighthouse.
Yeah. Which is a very Giant Boy Detective is a funny idea. The idea of a gargantuan detective, because that would make things really tough.
It would, yeah. To think of how many crime scenes he would just obliterate. by accident.
You'd be trying to put down like the hair and the spit on the door, but you'd be doing it with tweezers and like.
Yeah, just I mean, it speaks volumes of how good of a detective he actually is the thing.
I mean, Batman's the world's greatest detective, but we haven't seen the world's biggest detective.
we need the comparison. Yeah.
God, world's big man, world's biggest detective is a very funny idea.
But Giant Boy Detective, says, "Oh, if you think I'm disappointing, Clifford the big red dog. He's like one of those little purse dogs. He's more pink than red."
Yeah. Clifford being a big red dog from comics. He's a big red menace.
This is more of a like kids book, illustrated like picture book kind of thing.
I was thinking of Marmaduke.
Yes.
Who is a big red dog, but not the big red dog.
Right. He's not bigger than a house, although Clifford's size is wildly inconsistent from picture to picture.
Yeah. I love this whole bit with the Order of the Triad trying to fly the jet. Again, from last episode, I want the alchemist to be my best friend. Like, take the coordinates from your amulet and put them in the flight computer.
He's just trying to help.
It's so good. He's in the back, and they've got Yin Yub as the co-pilot.
Yep.
He's like, again, talking about how he should kill him.
Yeah, no, should we kill him? Like, you might be like an abomination or something.
Unless he's made of dead people, it's still murder.
Right.
They're trying to take off. Brock starts, Brock wants to leave eventually, but then, the Monarch says, or at first the Monarch says, we had to rescue Dr. Girlfriend. So then he gets on board. He's like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah, and he snaps into full-on operative mode. He starts ordering people around, trying to get the Cocoon mobilized, but the Monarch is resentful of this. Right.
It's like a play resentful.
Yeah.
This is full of the Monarch kind of winking at Brock and Doc. At this point, like this is like a Monarch Brock friend episode almost.
Yeah. They're not at each other's throats, and they actually end up working pretty well together. Like Brock does a really good job of commanding these forces. Yeah.
Like he does an excellent job. It's full of like go to hell and thanks. That kind of like action movie. Cliche, which they do a few times too many. I think in the episode it's a little bit weird, but again, they had a lot to do and tons of time. They just also had to do a Neverending Story parody that's 10 minutes long.
Yeah, that adds nothing.
Like it adds a little bit of fun.
Yeah.
Brock is making fun of him because magenta is his battle mode color, which is funny. The Rusty is eating some wedding cake,
of course,
on the command seat. Which is very like casual Rust.
Yeah. And over in the Sovereign's flagship, we've got Dr. Girlfriend barging in on Phantom Limb. And she asks, like, hey, are you crazy? Are you going to sink your entire career over this petty little feud? You stole the Sovereign's entire army. And Phantom Limb drops a little bomb here saying, oh, I think the Sovereign's going to be fine because the Sovereign is me. Almost played for like, haha, he's been the Sovereign the whole time. No, he's just usurped it.
Yeah. This when she's talking to him and Iggy and Klaus in the background are just constantly giggling.
Yep.
Like is very. It's like, what the fuck are you laughing at? So he orders the strangers to attack, and everybody. We get to see this fun scene of all the different escape ships. Which he lets leave, and there's a Tron ship in there.
I love the Tron like line sailor or whatever it is that the Atari headed guy pilots.
The Cocoon takes off because it is the pride of the poison sky, and as they're flying down, Rusty criticizes the fact that it's a cocoon.
Yeah,
as opposed to having being butterfly shaped, since butterflies also fly and cocoons don't.
Yeah, just calling into question the entire premise of it. I love this comedy beat with 24, addressing the troops in the briefing room and whatever. Like, okay, how many of you are suicidal? And then like half of the people raise their hands.
And then after that, he goes, "Oh, geez, how many of you like change?" He's like, just like real, like, hey, warm him up energy without any. And when 21 introduces Brock, he says, "Give him the respect you were supposed to give 24."
Yeah.
Which I like a lot. And I love henchman Brock.
Yeah. Like he walks
the,
in like scraping along the walls with like the claws that he has there. It's like, it's really good.
Yeah. He basically points out, like, I've beat on many of you in the past. They all rush to forgive him, including the guy who had his face tattooed.
Yeah. They're like, because they respect him. They're afraid of him, but they know that he gets results.
Yeah. Same energy as the luchador saluting or clapping when he dropped his pants. Like, Brock Sampson is irresistible.
Right. Yeah. No one you'd rather have in a foxhole, And he says, hey, you guys are pretty, individually, a kid could beat any one of you, but, together as a swarm, you can be dangerous. Says, welcome to Big Boy Town. Today, you're no longer butterflies, you're murder flies.
You're murder flies.
Yeah. Like, it's really rousing.
Swarm, you can be dangerous.
Yeah. Kind of made him sound like Randy Savage.
Oh, yeah. I got you for 3 minutes of rock time. 21 and 24 say they can't fly in. They've just got a Cocoon and a Nissan Stanza.
Yeah.
Brock is upset about the wings, and he's like, well, what about the wings? These are for showing, not blowing. 24 says, but then it turns out they do work.
Yes.
They've just never known.
Yeah. 21 is like, nobody tells me anything. Like, would have been really useful a lot of times, but now they can fly, and it sets up the canyon trench fight that we're going to have here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is where Hank rushes in, still dressed up in the Russian Guyovich thing without the goatee, but ask if he can join. He wants to fight as well, and Brock says this time is too dangerous.
Right.
No way.
True. Like, it's not play. Phantom Limb is not playing a game here, right?
It's like a real miracle that the boys don't die.
Yeah.
During this episode, and they still have the clone card, so I'm kind of surprised they didn't. Everybody basically gets off scot-free except for Phantom Limb.
Yeah. I love Hank's line when he gets denied. Why must you be the screen door of my submarine, Brock?
I never even I only knew about that as a Polish joke, which
Same?
used to be a thing when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Which now, I'm not minimizing it at all, but now seems really quaint.
Yeah,
it's a real the face of nonstop hate crimes.
Right. Yeah, I'm not Polish, and I don't really know an awful lot of people who are, vocally Polish. I've never bounced one of these off of them just to see. But yes, it does feel like quaint 70s uncle humor more than anything.
I'm not, not to minimize it, but just in terms of,
I mean, and
Proud Boys stationing snipers in the parking garages in my downtown.
Right.
Yeah.
But just
which happened. Just
I'm
exaggerating.
Trying to keep people either in or out. Their mission is very unclear. Yeah. But just saying you got to keep on sabotaging me, don't you, Brock? Back in Fantasy World, we have the disembodied head of the princess. This is Triana with longer hair. Speaking, the prophecy of the boy savior who would rescue the people of Insectia. Right.
Yep. Dean is dressed as Atreyu from the Neverending Story. And Giant Boy Detective introduces him to Pete White, who is the Great White Oracle. This is I love this banter between them. You got to promise not to be judgmental. I'm not judgmental. Oh, you're the one who always rolls up the windows when we're going through a bad neighborhood. I love Pete White being like, well, am I doing it now? Is this the right time for this? And then Rusty is this kind of rat scientist who is another character from Neverending Story.
Yeah.
Who I'm having a hard time remembering because it's been a minute since I've seen.
Yeah, this is the point where I admit that I've never seen the Neverending Story. I've just gotten all of it through osmosis. Like a horse dies and the kid screams on top of the dragon.
Die?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, does a horse die?
Yeah.
You got to see Neverending Story, dude.
Do I? Really?
It's pretty good. There's a rock biter.
Okay.
Yeah. It's basically what Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced is.
Yeah. See, I don't like
cool
Final Fantasy
gets sucked
Tactics
into a
Advance's
book.
story at all, really.
Well,
not,
it's his horse shit.
Yeah.
But it's good when it's like a 90-minute movie.
Yeah, and also it's probably good when you're 9. So
Yeah, when you're 9 in a 90-minute movie.
yeah.
Yeah. There's just a bunch of weird, surreal ass imagery. Like,
Yeah.
I think here's the thing that I think you would like about it.
Okay.
I don't want to spend too long on this.
Okay.
But he does go through like a fairly well imagined world where details suggest cooler world outside the frame. So it has a little bit of like, not Dark Souls appeal, because it's not the same kind of bleakness.
Quit pandering to me.
It's a little bit like the House of Leaves.
Okay.
If the House of Leaves took place in the Dark Tower.
Okay.
No, but it's like, you go through the swamps of sorrow or whatever, and you get these cool badass shots of the swamps of sorrow. And you get to think about like, shit, what's going on with those swamps of sorrow?
Yeah. But see, here's the other thing. I could use that time and watch Nobody. Like, that looks pretty cool.
Well, yeah. But man, the Southern Oracle is too gigantic. Like fucking there are things you would like about it, but you should watch Nobody.
Okay.
But there are things in the Neverending Story that are stand up.
Okay.
I think.
I believe you.
But I also want to see Nobody, so I can't.
Right.
You countered me. Check and mate. He's being introduced here. Rusty the scientist is saying like, he's probably, a wuss. He's going to be no good.
Doesn't believe in him. He's undercutting him. This is how Dean sees his dad, right?
Yeah. And he insists that he is the chosen one. He has the Ring of Power. He goes to show this off and it falls off. Just a like kind of comedy beat. But again, this is mostly just like, hey kids, look.
Yeah.
Neverending Story, and a little bit of banter between Pete and Billy. We got Brock deploying the butterflies in waves from the cocoon. Hank is just trying to sneak in as Russian Guyovich, but since they deploy in waves, he stops, and Brock,
doesn't recognize
where
him.
you're from, soldier.
I am exchange henchman.
Yeah, from foreign country, Russian Guyovich. He's like, well, you picked a hell of a day. Yeah, just goes along with that.
Yeah. And after he falls out, Brock has to catch him, and then his mustache falls off, so the disguise doesn't do much of anything. And then we get into the epic aerial battle between the henchmen and the strangers' helicopters.
I don't understand how the henchmen are doing anything.
Yeah,
like Brock is good at leading them. He's like, don't clump up like a JV soccer team.
Yeah, use the cannon as cover.
He's giving them all this advice, but they're just shooting like caulk guns. It looks like.
Yeah, they're caulking up the windshields of the helicopters.
Yeah. It just looks like silly string on there. Like it looks like you can clearly see through it. The most effective thing they show is a bunch of them smashing on the windshield like bugs.
Yeah,
and one of them that is dying that gets thrown into the rotor of a helicopter later.
Yeah,
by Brock. But it's weird because they talked about how they have this fully stocked armory, but they just shoot 24 has M80s.
Yeah.
And then, and none of them ever go off. There's a scene in the background where he's got one lit right in front of his face for a long conversation. It's just like, man, that's going to blow up.
That's quarter stick dynamite, dude.
Yeah, that's no good. But they don't use any of that stuff.
Right. Yeah. Well, Sergeant Hater probably cheaped out on the materials.
Could be.
Yeah.
Russian Guyovich, as he falls through, his goatee and mask falls off. Brock catches him and notices that he's Hank.
Yes. Yeah. Over in the flagship, Iggy wants to fight. He's itching. He's a street walking cheetah with a heart full of napalm. I know that one. Opening lines of Search and Destroy. Good ass song.
Yeah. No, that's a good song. And Phantom Limb turns him down and says he has to protect Dr. Girlfriend.
Yes.
Dr. Girlfriend slowly puts together what we've put together. Phantom Limb can't be the Sovereign. She's seen him be chewed out by the Sovereign. And this is where he says, this is a power play. He gave himself a promotion. He's learned to mix business with pleasure. The wedding job was not only to get Dr. Girlfriend back, but don't have so much ego because it was also to
take over the guild.
Play.
Yeah. To take out Bowie, the true sovereign, which Dr. Girlfriend just now puts together. Like she just figured he was, a nice higher up. So, yeah. Outside, they basically pull the same joke from what is it, the Fallen Arches, where 21 is unable to fly and maneuver. on the wings. This is where they have the conversation about the henchman being sucked through the engine. 24 believes that's just a myth, that can't actually happen.
Wait, it sounded like they're talking about different units. He's like, Unit A is mostly on fire.
Yeah.
And he says, I thought you guys were the ones who were sucked through an engine. He says that's an urban myth. It wasn't about whether people can be sucked through an engine. It's like whether it happened in the canyon.
It's like whether they survived, I think is the urban myth, which we've talked about. We've talked about the guy who got sucked through the engine and survived, right?
What you're talking about makes way more sense than what's in the show.
Yeah.
Because he says, it's really, I watched it a couple times. It makes no sense. 21 is like, I thought you guys were like not referring to just anybody, referring to a specific unit of henchmen, were sucked through the engine and survived. And he says that's an urban myth. And then he replies and says, you can't start an urban myth with flying guys in the Grand Canyon.
I think maybe he's talking about it just like, how can that become an urban myth so quickly? That just happened.
So he's not referring to the like urban myth of it happening in real life on the ground. This is I kind of hate this exchange. Part of what drives me nuts about this episode is that it does feel rushed.
Yeah.
And there's so much stuff I could have cut.
They even say that like a lot of this stuff is like improvised, like an exchange, just like, here's an exchange that we're going to have in between kind of our comedy duo here. And I think they just were probably a little bit too lax about letting stuff in, like letting it fly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just ends up feeling like a weird filler.
Yeah.
And then when you also end up having these like drag ass scenes, like Dr. Girlfriend putting together that Phantom Limb took over the position.
Mm-hmm.
So just kind of it's just strange.
Yeah.
Iggy Pop goes outside to have a cigarette. He pulls out his pack of cigarettes, which is a reference to like specific cigarettes that David Bowie smoked
in his thin white Duke phase, right?
Yep. Okay. Yep, during the Berlin time. But he pulls out one cigarette that has David Bowie's head on it.
Mm-hmm.
That just says, hello, I'm David Bowie, which I love. And then says, make way for the Homo Superior from Oh You Little Things, or Oh You Pretty Things, and takes Iggy out.
Yes. Yeah. Elsewhere, a henchman dies in Brock's arms. These 5 minutes under your command have been the proudest of my career. Then he coughs a bunch of blood on his face.
And then, like, Brock kind of nods and throws him into a rotor, which I just love. It's really good. Hank, Brock yells at Hank. He's like, you're in this. You may as well do it. You have bogeys on your 10 and 2. Take the shot. And he does, and it does a ricochet onto a Looney Tunes rock.
Yeah.
Like, very specifically a rock that would fall on Wile E. Coyote, it feels like.
Yeah, like it's a gigantic rock suspended on a little rock, and he shoots the little rock, and it falls over onto one of the choppers, and we get the Star Wars great shot, kid. That was 1 in a million.
Lots of Star Wars going on in this episode.
Yeah. So we're gonna get that out of our system and not have that in season 3, which will be nice.
Yeah. We cut over to Fantasyland, where the Monarch is this mechanical mantis wasp guy who is having the orphans turn his engine. Turn me on. It's like a very good, funny performance to me.
Yeah. Well, I love the design on this, like this fantasy version of the Monarch, not just because it looks like Zorak, rest in peace, C. Martin Croker. God, I fucking love Zorak so much. But also like, it looks like sinister. It looks really evil. Yeah.
It's what Dean thinks of when he thinks of these costumed people, but he's like in play mode. I love, and I do this, as much as I don't like the fantasy subplot that much, I do love this exchange, where he's like, yes, the only one who could drive a stake through my black heart. And Dean just like stabbing other places and him react like
cuts off a limb. That was a sexual organ.
Just my black heart. And then Dean figures out, he's like, you finally learned the riddle of my black heart.
But he stabs the heart, absorbs the Monarch's power, and frees the kids and attacks the machinery, and starts like venting about his dad, just saying like, this is for X, this is for Y, this is for kids who are brought to these terrible situations by a father who doesn't care about them and stuff. It ends on a pretty real note.
Yeah. Yeah. It's what shows that he's not, that he's actually working through some stuff.
Yes.
The Cocoon loses power, and the Monarch orders him to go investigate the engine room. He doesn't want to go down there because it's spooky. That's Ken Plume.
Yep.
Doing the voice of that. So I got a little cameo there. And then, Rusty's like, do you pay these people?
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you want to see my escape cocoon?
Yeah.
And real quiet, like he's going to abandon ship.
I love that, Monarch's like, okay, I'm going to get out of here, but I'm specifically going to save Rusty. Like, he does not need to do that. I think that is very sweet that he does. Yeah.
And this one.
Iggy Pop, in quotes, sneaks up on Klaus Nomi. Klaus tries to do a scream attack, but Iggy covers his mouth and he explodes.
Yeah, I like this.
Yeah.
It just pops like Cthulhu.
Yep.
And Phantom Limb immediately knows this is Bowie.
Yeah.
They fight. Bowie shapeshifts through different forms, including Phantom Limb and Brock here. And Brock and Hank, their whole plan was to cut off the head, watch the body die, but they can't get into the flagship.
Yeah.
It's too, they're trying to stab him with a knife. 24 has an M80.
Yeah, well, 21 he was jettisoning ballast, so that's why he threw away the bolt cutters. He also threw away his shoes and his certs.
Yeah, you didn't see me throwing out certs. The X1, however, buzzes them at this point. Because they got Ninyub piloting who knew how to do it.
Yeah, and Al and Jefferson, they have to remind Dr. Orpheus, we do not have magic powers.
He says, can't you make a magical shield to protect us? And he's like, join hands, order the triad. And Al, Jefferson says, I'm not magic. And Al says, I got a powder that can turn mosquitoes into bats. But if you want to join hands, we can do that.
Yeah, like might as well die holding hands with my best buds.
Yep, love it. Dean, has freed all the creatures of Insectia. There's like a rainbow unicorn hugging a koala. The princess says, there's many more things for him many more wrongs for him to right. He goes, that's good, but I think we should make out. So they start making out, and then Falcor, the luck dragon, smashes on the ground and says, I love you.
Yeah. Falcor, quote unquote, is actually the nose of the X1, which is, pierced into the engine room. Numb gets jellified against the windshield in the crash. He does not believe in seatbelts.
Yeah, dead. Byron Orpheus comes out to his musical sing and says, magic guy, never flown an experimental jet before. And Dean, starts talking about his next quest. And they realize, the crazy kid is crazier than usual. And this is just them rescuing Dean.
Yeah.
So the Order of the Triad got shunted off to, the Order of the Triad and Dean got shunted off to this long-running B-plot.
Yeah. But they did rescue him before the thing crashed and, got obliterated. Yeah. So that's nice.
Good for them.
Yeah. Outside, the Sovereign's flagship crashes into the escape Cocoon, knocking both on course and down to the floor of the canyon. Cremation Creek is an actual place in Arizona. I did not know that. I thought they were just coming up with a fun Western name.
No, it's very similar to the terrible Secret of Turtle Bay.
Yeah.
They do that real shit.
The Torrid Zone. Yeah.
The Torrid Zone. Exactly. The henchmen are in the water. And their wings inflate as life preservers. 21 is upset because nobody tells him anything. The Monarch manages to rescue Dr. Girlfriend, but turns out it's Bowie, and he finds the real Dr. Girlfriend pinned under some rubble of some kind.
I love the Monarch's line as he rushes over to her. Tell me you're not paralyzed, because that would be so unfair to both of us.
Yeah, thinking about having a partner who's paralyzed.
Yeah.
It turns out she's not actually hurt though. She's pinned under Phantom Limb's leg, which is invisible and is off.
Yeah, Limb is gone.
Yeah. At this point, the Monarch says, looks like I have a new arch enemy. And Bowie says, I wouldn't worry about that. He won't be safe anywhere in the world once I stick my diamond dogs on him. Referring to
Metal Gear Solid 5.
Yes. Yeah. They're referring to the fact that nobody will tell Kojima something sounds uncool. Reference does not equal cool. he hugs Dr. Girlfriend, turns into an eagle, not a fucking owl,
Yeah.
and flies away. Because at this point, Hank sees like the guy from Labyrinth just turned into a bird. In Labyrinth, he very clearly turns into an owl. I don't know why they haven't turned into an eagle.
Don't know.
Not to sound too database. I hope somebody got fired for that blunder, though. It's two of the same rib consecutively and clearly makes two different tones.
Yeah. No. But, hey, I'm not making fun of you. You're the one who's tightened the screw on yourself.
Yeah, I just, if I ever get a chance to interview Doc and Jackson,
It's going to be all
question.
about that one decision. You just are fake fans, right?
Yeah. I'm going to ask them about that, and they're going to be like, I don't know. That would be Doc Hammer would say it that way. And then that's going to be it for me. Then I'm going to turn to a corn cob and...
Yep, and then you're gone forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shrink into a corn cob. Dead.
We get one little piece of Rusty content here. He says, I lost my gold filling during the crash, so we're gonna have to hook up the metal detector to the toilet again, which is fun. And 21 just cannot accept that the Sovereign recorded Station to Station.
Yeah. 24 says, oh yeah, and changes One Bowie. I love that album. And 21 rightly calls him out as a poser since that is a greatest hits album.
Yeah. Oh, Decade is my favorite Neil Young album. Fuck you. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. Like there are bands that greatest hits work for, but they're not the kind of bands you should have a favorite album of. Like,
Right.
The Men at Work greatest hits fulfills my needs just fine, but I'm not going to say that's my favorite Men at Work album.
No,
because that's a weird thing to say. Orpheus walks up. He's like, I saved Dean. The boy is safe. Al trips over something and turns out to be one of Phantom Limb's limbs, and he stashes it with the implication that it's his gigantic fucking horse cock.
it has to be his arm, right?
I mean, it is his arm, but I think the joke is that Al is going to have a fun invisible penis to play with. And if it's a penis, it's like, it makes a squish, like a noise when he squeezes it. And it's fucking huge.
Yeah.
Like logistic nightmare.
It's a two-hander. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's draped over that man. Yeah.
When you're a kid, you think that it'd be great to have a penis like that. And then when you become an adult, you realize like, one, you realize like, you just got the penis you got. But two, that there would be an absolute logistical nightmare.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like, I am very, very happy with just having like a regular old ding dong.
Sounds like sour grapes to me, but you do you.
It's not. It's me. Love the one you're with.
Yeah.
It does the job, and it's not. It doesn't require a lot of like prep or like special wardrobe.
Special ward. I like the idea that it just stays in its trailer, makes demands.
It's got a PA. Gets it coffee every day. Other than sound.
Just a sorry,
glug,
nope.
glug, glug, glug.
You pulled me out of the bit. Jamming a funnel in the end. Fuck.
Yeah. No. You just drape it in and then it just drains it like a straw.
Yeah. Oh, it's like one of those big marshmallows that Bart puts into his hot chocolate.
Yeah.
Carves off a slice. Yeah.
Oh, hopefully not.
Oh, yeah. And then that's the credits. That's the credits gag. Smash.
Oh yeah.
Smash.
Yeah. Smash. Al has an arm, but something he's going to use as a penis. Whether it's a penis or not.
Right.
We get a long post-credit scene with Dean on top of the X1. Jefferson asks if he's going to be all right, and Brock says he does this all the time. He'll pass out from the cold.
Yeah.
And be brought in. Down in the escape cocoon, the Monarch and Doctor Girlfriend have been having repeatedly consummating their marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I didn't actually say I do. And he's like, well, you didn't say I don't. And she says, well, there is one thing I need to tell you. Monarch, I'm... And then it cuts outside the cocoon, and there's like a scream.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
And then they made people wait 2 years to find out what it was.
Yeah, and it's disappointing when you find out what it was. Like, it's not, so they regret it. I'm not going to hammer on them too much, but it is a bummer ending, I think.
Yep. And that is the showdown at Cremation Creek. We're going to be setting up this new status quo, which mostly has to do with where the Monarch and Dr. Girlfriend end up. and kind of what happens when the Monarch cannot arch. Dr. Venture, because he's got to follow through on his promise, right?
Yep. Yeah. I'm looking forward to talking about season 3. It has a bunch of bangers in it. My memory of the premiere of season 3 is thinking that it is a little too lore heavy, and like kind of lacks momentum. But then you get the Doctor is Sid next, and they talk about that in the book, how it was difficult they were like kind of waiting on each other. Because Doc Hammer was writing Orb,
right?
Which is where the show gets its namesake.
Yeah. Seasons are going to start speeding up too. Eventually, we're going to get to the point where they move from 13 episode seasons to 8 episode seasons.
Yeah. I'm really excited.
Same.
I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to all of the future of this show.
Yeah.
I went, and just for fun, I had a joke from it stuck in my head, so I went and watched The Better Man from season 4.
Oh yeah.
Which is one of my favorite epissodes of the show. Like the portal doesn't work, and Dean asked Triana what was supposed to happen, and she says, "I don't know. My mom was supposed to call him and tell him he's a better kisser." Just really, really good.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So if you would like to support us, you can go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv, and you can get episodes one whole week early. So if you want to lord spoilers over your friends who happen to be free listeners, then you can do that.
Yeah, if that's what turns you on. You can also support us by doing that, which is appreciated. If you do not want to financially support us, you can leave us ratings or reviews on Apple Podcast or Podcast Addict, or wherever you find podcasts. That would be appreciated. And tell your friends. If you have Venture Brothers buddies, let them know. It's like, hey, there's this like kind of recap podcast of the Venture Brothers that's going through all those old episodes and talking about all the references and shit.
Yeah, explaining all that Bowie and Klaus Nomi stuff you might not have gotten.
Yeah. This counts as course credit in Klaus Nomi U.
Klaus Nomonics?
Yeah. And until next time,
go Team Venture.
Venture.